Hi, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. This is so exciting.
Yeah. Woo. It's like a lot of adrenaline rushing in here.
I totally get you. I totally get you. Can I just say, I think this is so amazing that you are, did you say 11 years old?
Yeah.
This is so fantastic. I can't believe you contacted my manager. I think that is so cool. And it shows how determined and affirmative you are. So I just wanted to say that's awesome. You have really
Thank
good
you.
personality traits going on. You're a hardworking woman.
Where are you quarantining at?
So I'm quarantining at my family's house in San Diego, which is the house that I lived in since I was 9 years old. So younger
Wow.
than you.
Okay. So, I have like a few general topics and I have like questions within the topics and I create some questions as we go, so it'll just be a ride to remember.
Perfect. I love it. Sounds great.
So, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Mariah Rose Faith. I am 24 years old. I grew up in Southern California, and I've basically lived my whole life striving towards creative opportunities and telling stories and making stories. So you can say that I'm a big fan of performance, probably because of that. I think it's so amazing to be able to step into a character and share their views of the world. I think it's also wonderful to see new views of the world through their eyes. So it helps me grow as a human being, whether I'm acting or I'm writing or I'm directing. And I've worked in all of those fields as I've grown up so far.
Wow. So focusing on like the theater aspect of performing, how did you start in theater?
So I started in theater when I was 7 years old. I was put into a youth theater company by my parents because I used to sing all the time. And so they were like, Mariah, I think it would be a great idea if we put you in theater. And I didn't know what that meant. Like, I loved movies, but I never thought I would act or do anything like that, especially on stage. And so I auditioned for the first time for a show. The first play musical I've ever did was called Honk Jr., which is this musical about the ugly duckling, basically. And I auditioned and I got a female soloist, so I had my own song. But when I was 7 and 8, I didn't know what a soloist even was. So I was like, am I not going to be able to sing? And I had no idea that I would be able to actually sing a whole song. And it was really magical, and I didn't stop after that.
Wow. For what was your first professional theater gig?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's see. The first, I like to count it as when I moved to Los Angeles, the first time I got paid to do something. Let's see. Oh, gosh. I was getting paid my first paid gig wasn't theater. It was doing some online commercial work and other things like that. And then I just sort of fell into it. I started doing a few workshops for brand new shows. And I was getting paid to be a part of that. And that was really, really cool. That like the first things I was getting paid for were new productions. Yeah.
So when did you start like performing for like, because in workshops you're still performing in front of people, but it's like not a show kind of?
Right.
So
That's a great question.
So when was your like first show?
First show, professional show?
Yeah.
That I was getting paid for? Oh my gosh. It's hard to remember at this point. Let's see. I went to, if you can't tell, I'm doing my timeline in my head. How many things? I think I was probably around 21 because I was still in school. I worked in Hollywood Fringe, which was really incredible, and I did a show through there. And I think we both made a little bit of money working on that show, and that was like a whole collective also of new productions. Hollywood Fringe is amazing for new writers in LA who want to show off stuff that they're working on. It's also great for young actors like myself to be seen. And so I did a show with them called Comic-Con the Musical. Mm-hmm. And we actually ended up bringing that to LA Comic-Con as well, which was really, really cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What was something that you learned through your early performing arts?
Something I learned performing especially when I was younger, is that theater is all about community, and acting and creating. It's all about surrounding yourself with people who are going to make you excited to do better, and also inspired to do better by their performance as well. And really, when I started doing theater again, so I went from when I was like 8 years old to like 13, I did a lot of theater. And then I took a little bit of a break. And I came back when I was 17 years old. And at that time, I really found some of my best friends in the whole world, some of them that are still my best friends to this day. And they showed me my potential that I had. And I just kept seeing that in more theater that I did. And the higher it went up professionally, the more excited and eager people were to help you grow and be along in your journey. And I think back then that was so important to me to know that this was something I would be able to do one day if I just kept at it.
Yeah. So now I wanted to like shift over to Mean Girls, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
So how did you get your audition from like your YouTube channel, right?
Yes, I did. So I got my first audition because I posted a cover of World Burn on YouTube. And Tina Fey and Jeff Richmond, who are the writers of our show with our book and our music, stumbled upon it. And so they reached out to Telsey, which is the casting firm who casts Mean Girls and a lot of other Broadway productions and television shows and movies as well. And they requested a self-tape from me, basically of all the Regina material. So 3 scenes and parts from 2 of my songs. And I sent that in a self-tape literally the next day because I wanted them to know how important this was to me. I was not going to waste any time. So I got it out to them the next day. And they loved it, which was crazy. It all felt like a surreal dream because I was still in film school at the time. And I was finally deciding, okay, I'm doing a lot of theater work. I should probably transition and try to push, that as a career and maybe take a break from school for a while. And so right as I declared that is when I got this audition. So it felt very meant to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I kept working at it. I did like 5 callbacks for Broadway and tour. And eventually they called me and asked if I wanted to play Regina on tour, which just felt like the biggest accomplishment in so long, because it was basically all of 2019 were Mean Girls callbacks. So it felt really rewarding.
Yeah, and it's no small feat. Like you're traveling. Yeah, you're traveling all around like the country, and you get to do what you love.
Yeah, it's really special, and I get to it's a good challenge for myself too, because it's definitely not an easy role. So it's been so great to see myself improving. Like on the road, it was like every 2 weeks I felt like I was getting better and better, which is really rewarding as an actor.
Yeah. Speaking on life on the road, how was like life on the road?
Life on the road is basically like summer camp all the time. So you're with like your best friends and you're traveling nonstop, and then you get to do this crazy show 8 times a week, which is the best thing in the world. And it's also really tiring. So you kind of have to develop this balance of taking care of yourself while also making sure that you're having a lot of fun. But because if you start to turn it into like a job, you're not going to love it as much as you truly do. So all of us made sure to really like take the time to rest, but then also take time to explore cities and be with each other so that when we went to the show at night, we were excited to do it every time.
Yeah, and 8 shows can be like really tiring, like physically and mentally.
Yes, it can, especially like with a show so big like Mean Girls. You have so much energy you're exerting every single performance. So by Sunday night, you're like, okay, team, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Let's just get to it.
So for travel days, how are those like?
So travel days, it might be different once the tour starts because those are going to be this next coming year is different dates. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of longer stays in this first year, but most of the time, if we were somewhere for 2 weeks, we would get Mondays off. But if we aren't there for 2 weeks at a time, then Monday is our travel day. So we have that whole day, usually waking up in the morning to go to the airport, or we were getting on a bus together and going to our next location, which airports were always kind of crazy because you never knew if your flight was going to get delayed, which happened a few times. And most of the time we're exhausted on Mondays. We want to sleep in. We want to eat a bunch of food and watch TV and not worry about anything. So when you're waiting in an airport all day, it can be really hard. You just want to get to your new stop and lay in your new bed or go grocery shopping. So those were hard days. But on bus days, you pretty much know your schedule right away. You wake up in the morning, you drive for a few hours, and then you get to make it to the new town. So that's not too bad. But the airports are so unpredictable. So there were always a lot of fingers crossed. There were a couple times when flights got delayed so bad that some of our crew had to end up leaving the airport and going to take a bus because they have to get to the theater earlier than us actors so they can set up our stage and all of our sets and all of those important technical pieces.
Yeah. One question I have, if you can answer this, is there, because also like the screen wall?
Yeah.
How do they do that in every new theater?
The screen wall is so cool, huh? Have you been able to see the show live?
No, I was supposed to when you guys gonna come to Seattle, but now I'm not sure because you still have one date listed for Spokane, but we're not sure if we're gonna.
Right, I know. Whatever's going to happen, we're all playing it by ear. We're all in the same boat. But I know it's crazy. Hopefully you get to see the show live at some point, or we do a pro shot or something with the Broadway company and it's released one day. But the screen wall is basically a bunch of little screens, little block screens, all put together to make this giant TV across the stage. And that is taken on a bunch of big buses. All of our set pieces in that screen are all traveled across this country on massive trucks, and then they get moved into every new theater. And sometimes our theaters are smaller or bigger, so it's kind of seeing how it's going to fit and look natural, because on Broadway, they never change stages. But on tour, we have new theaters all the time. So there's a lot of adjusting every time we go to a new place, whether it's with our set pieces and the screen or with all of us. And so we have a company meeting every new location, and we go over new things to expect based off of that stage.
Yeah. And Mean Girls has so many set pieces, like the bathrooms and then the bedrooms. And then, yeah. I'm not sure if you're in Regina is in the scenes, but are you ever on like those desk thingies that move?
I never get to ride a desk. You know what's so funny, Lucy, is I always say, like, you never see Regina in class. She's like, I think you see Karen, but Regina is the only plastic you never see in class. I think even one of the only leads, principal actors, which is so funny. So I'm like, do I go to class? We don't know. So I never have to do desk choreography.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because you're just like, what happens if your legs get like tired all of a sudden?
Oh yeah, and we've had a lot of people fall. Trust me, there have been many desk falls because they are really quick and wobbly.
And I know in Meet the Plastics, you have to like stand still for a really long time. And is that like difficult for you?
It's gotten easier for sure. But when I started out, and I talked to Taylor about this too, she was like, don't let that table be the death of you. Because it is scary. It's scary standing up there like this, and you're getting rolled on, and all of a sudden you see 3,000 people watching you. And it's like, oh gosh, I'm supposed to be the cool girl. I cannot fall. If I fall right now, no one's going to believe I'm cool. So there have been a couple times where I've like edged forward a little bit. But most of the time I have remained very sturdy and strong. I work out my legs a lot, so I have a lot of leg muscles keeping me sturdy.
Yeah, because in one show I had to do, there was like a freeze moment at the start, and what I do right before the curtains open, I just like scream, like pretend scream, and just be like ah, and then I had to be like stone faced, and I was like
yes. That's so smart. You have to get all of that out of you. I do the exact same thing. So me and the plastics, me, Jonalyn, and Megan, or any of our swings or understudies when they're on, or standbys, will do like a little plastics chant every time, where we'll go like this to each other and go, plastics, yay, right before we enter. And we kind of shake everything out. I have to stand still or I'll move the table after it's unlocked. But I'll still kind of just go flip my hair, get energized. And we like to sing along with Where Do You Belong when we're behind the open screen. So it gets our warm up going and we feel energized to enter on stage.
How about, I asked you about life on a like travel day. How is it like on like a show day or even like a 2-show day?
Oh, that's great. So I found that I prefer staying, like having either my hotel or my Airbnb, wherever I'm staying, to be relatively close to the theater, because I love being able to go home in between shows, to have a good dinner, and just kind of prep myself like, okay, we're doing this one more time. Let's give it our all. I always say that Saturday nights are the hardest show, which usually we have the most audience members. And we already had one crazy show earlier that day. And it's the latest at night. It always starts usually at 8 p.m. Whereas Sunday nights, I think, are the best shows, which most of my cast members would disagree, because they're like, most of them are like, we're exhausted. It's our 8th show. And I'm like, I'm ready. Like, this is it. I know it's the final one. I usually always give like my craziness in world burn at that time, because I know that I get a day off tomorrow to rest my voice, or we get to go to a nice dinner afterwards, because usually they're at like 6:30 p.m. So we get her out around 9:30, and I maybe get to have dinner with my friends. So everybody has a different way of looking at them to be able to preserve energy. But I love being able to go home for a little bit and eat a nice dinner or drink a smoothie and maybe, steam my voice a little bit too, just to make sure that it's all healthy in there.
Yeah, one thing I find is really funny is the time Mean Girls Tour was in Chicago, I was there and I would see like the posters, and I actually like passed by the theater and I was like, dang it, I wish I could go. And I was like asking my mom, and I was like, can we go? And then like, cause my mom had a wedding when I was in Chicago. That was before the whole COVID thing, and I was with a babysitter, and I was like, hey, can you pay tickets for us to go to Mean Girls? And then my mom was like, oh, we can see it in Seattle, and now I'm like,
oh my gosh, that bums me out. But you know what? I really feel you're gonna be able to see it. I know it. It's gonna happen. We're gonna work this out. But Chicago was really fun. We were there for 5 weeks, so we were there for a long time.
Wow. Yeah, I was there for like 4 days, I think. So
it was cold.
Yeah,
it was cold over there.
Yeah, and we actually like passed like this I don't know what, I forgot the name, but it was like Ticketmaster, but they had like a little shop, and they were like selling Mean Girls tickets, and I was like, let's go. But then
you were so close. It almost happened.
Yeah. So how Mean Girls Tour, well, kind of not anymore, but before it was like it had some differences with Broadway. Did it affect anything?
So yeah, we have a lot of little differences from Broadway that end up feeling like a lot. And most of them are just to save time, so that we had a shorter show than our Broadway show, because it's pretty long. And yeah, there are a few things that I don't get to do the little reprise after Fearless anymore, where she goes, it's fine for you, new hair, new skirt, that whole bit, just to save time. And also because the creative team went back in after seeing it on Broadway for the last year plus, and they went, you know what? Let's make some changes. Let's see how these things work. Let's see how people respond to them. And a lot of things people really, really loved. So that's why they decided to go back to Broadway too and implement those changes after we tested them out with new audiences.
Yeah. And that second one you sang, I was like, she's singing.
You're so sweet.
For you, what are your favorite songs to listen and perform?
Just in general, or in Mean Girls?
In Mean Girls.
In Mean Girls. So I love to listen to It Roars. I think it is such a powerhouse number. It's such an amazing start to our show. And Danny Wade, who plays Katie on the road with us, is such a great storyteller. I love everything she does so much. And then you get our powerhouse ensemble, which is some of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. And they just dance so hard at the very beginning of the show. And whenever I get a watch from the wings, I actually had about like 3 weeks when I was coming up early every day. And everyone was like, Mariah, what are you doing here? You have like 15 more minutes before you come on stage. And I was like, you guys, I just want to watch you. You're so good. I want to see it. And then, of course, I love singing in World Burn. It's my favorite. I adore it. Someone Gets Hurt has been a journey for me. I think just because I've never thought I would be singing on stage in lingerie, technically, and in my underwear. So that was crazy, and I had to work on some confidence stuff, but my team was so supportive, and now I feel very confident in it. But I've seen some footage of like in 2019 where you could tell I was still a little nervous at times, but I've really grown, and it's made me feel a lot better. But World Burn, I've always been very eager to do every single night.
Yeah, and I feel like that World Burn is such like a powerful number, and with all that papers, because I haven't seen it, but don't you like travel?
Yes, so I have to throw these papers and move it's actually a whole ordeal. We make it look easy, but I am telling you, it is so hard because I have to come on all my Reginas on Broadway, on tour. All of us know this. We have to push on this coffee machine, right? And we can barely see. You can barely see the stage that you are walking onto. And you're just trying not to walk this coffee machine off the stage into the audience, because that would be terrible. Or really into our pit with all of our musicians. And so we get it on stage and we do the whole thing. We get the burn book out. I'm also holding papers secretly to make copies of. And then when I have to push the coffee machine off stage, this coffee machine is not light. It is heavy. And so we have someone in our crew waiting off in the wings that I push it to every night. And every night I cross my fingers that I don't accidentally hit the stage when I'm pushing it off. And I have to walk back with these papers. And if they are not crumpled right, just right, they will stick together and none of them will fly into the air. So it's kind of a little bit of science every single night to make sure that the papers actually fly and go. It's kind of hard.
Because, like, paper, it's not like cardboard that it just goes straight. Like,
totally.
It, like, twirls and stuff.
Yeah, it has a mind of its own. It doesn't want to listen to you, ever.
Yeah. So, did you find that anything was a struggle when starting Mean Girls, or, like, even rehearsals?
So, I think, like I said, for me, it was a lot of confidence stuff I had to work on, because character-wise, and I knew this going in, and from reassurance I got from the creative team and our directors, I had Regina in here. But there were certain things that, like, as Mariah, I'm a bit of an insecure person that I had to work through. And so I think some nights were easier than others if I was feeling good about myself and comfortable in my own skin. But if there were nights where I wasn't liking Mariah very much, people would be able to see that in Regina. So that was a big process that I had to take and grow from. And also making sure that I paced myself, because I didn't want to be out of my voice or out of stamina by Saturday and Sunday night. So a lot of it for me was just transitioning into a really crazy work schedule of doing a show. I had never done more than like 50 or 60 shows per run before. So I think, we've done over 200 now, which I've never done that. So that was really crazy, just to make sure that the energy stayed up and I didn't overdo it with myself. But other than that, getting into character was really fun. We learned from my director that we didn't want to make my Regina just mean. We wanted to make her more funny. We wanted to make her kind of that she thought that she was the funniest girl in school as well as the coolest girl in school. So a lot of her jokes that she'd make were thinking that people were laughing with her at this person. But really, those jokes were very, very mean and very hurtful. And she grows to understand that by the end of the show.
Yeah. one thing I have a question about Regina is what's one way you try to make Regina your own Regina?
That's great. That definitely ties into what we were just talking about. So yeah, she is definitely has a sense of humor. Because I was told specifically not to make her like Taylor does or make her like Renee does, because Renee and Taylor and Mariah were all very different people. So our versions of Regina are going to be different too. So mine, she is the life of the party, but in her own way. She doesn't need anyone around her to make her think and feel like she's awesome. She already knows she's awesome. She could have full energy or she could have low energy. It doesn't matter because she's Queen Bee. I also think that her manipulation that I was able to create, I kind of took away from how some people treated me in high school. I was definitely more of a Janice. And I had Reginas who talked to me and pretended like they were my friend. And I try to implement a lot of the experiences I had in performing as her. So, yeah.
Yeah, because what I kind of like about acting is like some people say it's like you're playing a totally different person, but you can't play that person without drawing some part of like you into the character.
Yes, you're so right. I like to think about that. My Regina, Mariah could have been that person if I didn't have the empathy and kindness that I do have towards other people, or if I didn't love the quirks and weird things about me. I could easily have been that very mean and unfortunate person in school. And so it's recognizing that in all of us to know I'm not that person, but there are things that could have made me that way, and using that from our real lives too.
If you could play any other character in Mean Girls, which one would you like to play?
Who do you think it'd be?
Well, from something you just said, I was wondering if you'd like to be Janice.
Yes, it would be Janice. That's what I felt like, and we've talked about that all the time, like me and the creative team and everyone else. If I was not playing Regina, and if MK on my tour with me was not playing Janice, we would be swapped. But the thing is that her center is more Janice, and mine is just more Regina. But I could definitely play Janice, and she could definitely play Regina. So that's the cool thing about acting, too. We are not limited to just one type or stereotype of character.
For your hair, now that you dyed it, you don't have to wear a wig anymore, is that correct?
No, I still have to wear the wig, unfortunately.
How is it like? How do they like pin it on?
So the wigs are pretty crazy. We wear a lot of wigs just because now we don't need to style my hair every day. Mm-hmm. So we don't need to worry about damaging. And then it also helps secure the mics in our head as well, because we keep our mics in our wigs. So how I do it, or I keep my cord in my wig. Some of us keep our full mic packs in our wig.
Wow.
Mine, I know, right? I think Gretchen has both of them in her hair. I have one in my back and one in my underwear. So the party's all there. So basically with my wig, we have people who do our hair for us. I put my hair in these little things called pin curls. People listening can't see, but basically you twirl some of your hair and you pin it up so that the wig will be able to stick onto things when it's pinned onto our head over our wig cap. And so it takes about 5 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes to pin my wig, make sure it's on right. Of course, there's always times where we have moments of things happen. I whip my hair too crazy in a song and my wig starts falling back. But usually we have people on deck who make sure things situate and fix itself. So sometimes, if you ever seen any footage of us, one moment a wig could look crazy, the next it looks picture perfect, because you have people backstage that are like, we gotta fix that. And with Regina, I basically, every time I walk off stage, I flip my hair, because her hair is supposed to be big and voluminous all the time. But also because I do that, my wig at the beginning was losing a lot of hair. Mm-hmm. So we had to get extensions for my wig back in like January because I lost so much hair out of it because I was flipping all the time.
Is it difficult changing costumes with the wig, or do you take it off and change?
It's actually pretty easy. We have a very good system. So with some costumes, before I change, we pin my hair up so that it doesn't get caught on anything. Sometimes it can get a little caught, but there's usually always someone there with me during quick change or right after to make sure that it looks good and back to normal.
So going back to when you said I asked what the challenging part of playing or in Mean Girls is. I wanted to ask what the most rewarding part about Mean Girls is.
Oh, I love that question. I think the most rewarding part of Mean Girls is the story that we get to tell with the people that we get to tell it. High school was a really hard time for me. And I never thought I would be playing Regina George, because when I was in high school, Mean Girls, the movie, was really popular and really big. And I was just not that girl. So it's crazy being able to tell this story and be there for younger kids who were like me and reassure them that everyone has been here. Everyone has been through this. People are mean, but people are also really nice too. And high school is just one part of our life. We change, we become better versions of ourselves, and it's all better usually. And to make sure that you don't let the plastics in your life dictate the amazing and awesome truth to who you are. I love that story so much.
Yeah, and what I think is really cool is one time a friend was telling me about the show, and one thing she told me about, I may have fuzzed it up a little bit, but later on in the dance, doesn't Karen say something like how there's like a rule of two and why Regina was mean?
Yeah, and I love that rule too. So she basically says there's two reasons why people do everything and how we view those things every single time. That sometimes Regina was mean, but really it was because she was feeling insecure about her own self. And it's true. I like to play Regina, and I think most of the other girls who do as well, is that confidence and that wanting to be thin and beautiful is really just a mask because she's so concerned about who she is and she wants to be liked so, so bad. And that's why I put on all those jokes too, where it's like, well, if I can laugh at other people, then people won't laugh at me. But that's not true, and people are always going to be mean and cruel. But we shouldn't take our insecurities and turn them into being mean towards others just because we want to grow and be better ourselves.
Yeah. What's one advice you would give to aspiring actors and actresses?
Something I would say to aspiring actors and actresses is to love who you are. Embrace who you are, all of your quirks, all of your little bits and flaws that you might think hinder you in your success. I promise you, those are the things that could make you a star, that could get all your dreams to make them become a reality. Because as soon as I started embracing myself as a weirdo and as, a curvier girl and as someone who isn't necessarily the Regina, like I said, in real life. I've never been the person that walks into a room in my own perception and have stopped the crowd, But as soon as I realized that Mariah herself is pretty cool, other people started seeing me in that way too, because I started to love who I am. So keep working on it. Walk into auditions knowing that people want you to do good and that people are on your side. And before you know it, the dreams that you have are going to start to become realities, and they're going to be right before your eyes.
Well, I think that's a great way to end the episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I hope you and your loved ones stay safe.
Thank you. You too. And hopefully I get to see you soon at my show. All right, Lucy. Bye.
Bye.